A medida que se van conectando, nos pueden ir comentando de dónde se conectan, de qué país, de qué ciudad, si es de la región, si es de fuera de la región, así conocemos un poquito a la audiencia y sabemos de dónde nos están acompañando el día de hoy.
Hola a todos los que se están conectando. Vamos a dar un par de minutos mientras más personas se conectan con nosotros. Así que les agradecemos esperar.
Bueno, ¿te parece arrancar, Manuela? Después
Perfecto.
que la gente se vaya sumando mientras hacemos la introducción, así ya vamos ganando tiempo.
Así es. Bueno, muy buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a esta sesión de Venture Academy. Como muchos saben, mi nombre es Manuela Vázquez y hago parte del equipo de ConnectaAmericas. Venture Academy es un programa desarrollado por IDB Lab, XCALA y ConnectaAmericas para apoyar a las startups, PYMES, inversionistas de la región en temas de emprendimiento y levantamiento de capital. Así que en la sesión de hoy tenemos a Randy Thompson, presidente y CEO de Balaja Private Capital. También tenemos a Marcelo Roca, director ejecutivo de XCALA, quien nos va a contar un poco más sobre el programa. Así que, Marcelo, te doy la palabra. Y recuerden todos que esta sesión va a ser en inglés. Pueden hacer, sin embargo, las preguntas en español. Marcelo va a ser quien las modere al final de la sesión. Y bueno, muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí el día de hoy con nosotros. And now switching to English, Randy, thank you very much for being here today. It's an honor for us to have you in a Venture Academy session. So Marcelo, the floor is yours.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Manuela. Una alegría poder regresar a estas sesiones de Venture Academy y un agradecimiento especial también al BitLab y ConnectaAmericas que hacen posible que hoy estemos acá. También le damos la bienvenida a toda la comunidad y antes de arrancar comentarles de que vamos a tener aproximadamente entre 45 minutos y 50 donde Randy va a estar comentando en relación a toda su experiencia como inversor ángel y después, como bien decía Manuela, un espacio donde vamos a tomar algunas preguntas, algunas consultas, algunas reflexiones del público. Y bueno, y vamos a hacer un ida y vuelta con Randy como para que nos pueda responder y reflexionar sobre lo que ustedes vayan escribiendo. Hoy es un placer enorme tener en Venture Academy a Randy. Randy es una persona que lo conozco de hace mucho tiempo y bueno, es de Canadá y independientemente, ¿no?, de que está muy al norte, ha estado muy vinculado en todo lo que tiene que ver con Latinoamérica y toda la región, continuamente agregando valor y viendo tanto emprendimientos como oportunidades desde el punto de vista de la inversión. Randy es CEO de Valhalla Private Capital. Él nos va a comentar un poquito más acerca de qué es lo que hacen, por si existen algunas oportunidades en ese sentido. Y en el 2015 y 2018 fue galardonado Inversor Ángel del Año en Canadá. Así que bueno, I am switching now to English to welcome Randy. Randy, we are really happy to have you here in Venture Academy, and thanks for sharing all your thoughts and knowledge with the community.
Well, Marcelo, thank you, and I consider Marcelo a good friend. Thank you for the intro. I can understand Espanol, but any of you that have gone out and had a cocktail with me in either of the countries, Colombia, Peru, et cetera, you know it's an in-joke to make me speak the beautiful language. So I'm really looking forward to this. And Marcelo, thank you so much for the opportunity to participate today. So Marcelo, I think what I'd like to do is just you and I have a quick banter here. We know we have a lot of people here. I know that we won't be able to get a breakdown as we go through my presentation of how many investors are online and how many entrepreneurs. But do you have a sense already, or Manuela, from who's
I have to tell you that most of the people which are connected are entrepreneurs.
Perfect.
But they can, write on the chat and tell us about what they do, and maybe we can have a sensing of the people who are sharing with us this opportunity. Okay.
Very helpful. So I built a presentation so I can go right down the middle of the highway. And by the way, thank you to all of you today. I completely know the only reason that any of this is in English is for one person, and there's 200 of you. So thank you for that. I like, and Marcelo will tell you this, I like dialogue. I like back and forth. So what I'd like is, let's try to keep Manuela quite busy today. If you'd like to make a comment on a slide you see or a question, put it in chat, and Manuela can stop me at the end of every slide and just say, hey, we got a comment about this, or if there's something interesting, we'll go from there. And we'll start with the sense that, okay, I'm going to try to talk to you about why an investor probably won't talk to you. So I think you've all, as entrepreneurs, been in that experience where you potentially walk up to an investor at an event, somebody's pointed them out to you, he or she, and you walk up and you think you've had a good conversation, you follow up, and then there's no follow-up. And one of the things I'd like to do today is talk about what it's like for me as an investor, and how I react when you come up to me at an event and you call me cold, or you cold call me. I'm sorry, I'll try to be careful with the language translations. You call me cold, or you send me something on LinkedIn, and how you end up on a pile. And I want to talk about giving you the opportunity to get a leg up, get an opportunity to actually connect with a real investor and understand their language and what their requirements are. And one of the things I think I'd like to start with is, I guess I should change the pages. I can do that later. Let me start. I'll put this up and I'll finish my thought, which is, we think that entrepreneurs have in their head that there is one type of, like a model. Like if you went to an MBA school, and a bunch of you have your MBAs, right, Marcelo? You have been taught, okay, there has to be a model that, what does a typical angel investor look like? Or what does a typical venture capitalist look like, VC? And I'd like to talk about how that is just bad. There's a methodology to approaching an investor, but investors are personalities, and they all have different ones. And what I'm going to tell you halfway through the presentation, I might as well give you the big money pro tip right now, is entrepreneur and investor relationships are a whole lot like Tinder. And how do I know this? I'm supposed to tell you why I get to talk to you today. I run a program called Valhalla Private Capital. It's a company. And I started as an entrepreneur, and I realized that one of the things where I lived in Canada was there was just no tech investors. They did real estate, and they did oil and gas, and they did agriculture. And I was really frustrated that you couldn't get them to participate in technology. So I started the first formal angel group where I live in Western Canada in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. But we realized early on that wasn't enough. And what we realized early on wasn't enough is the quality of deals that investors needed to see, we weren't getting. And I guess if I'm being blunt, the best way to start this is that when I ever do these speeches, first thing I tell you all is you all suck. As entrepreneurs, you just have to accept that you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to pitch, you don't know anything about valuation, and you probably don't know anything about financing. But what you do know is passion, and you do know how to build things, and you do know how to change the world. And that's why we continue to talk to each other. But when I put a group of investors in a room and you come in and you not only embarrass me and my investors, but embarrass yourself, two things happen in an ecosystem. Number one is investors stop coming to events. So you've actually hurt everybody else trying to raise money. And the second thing is you're going to feel humiliated, or you're going to read something in Silicon Valley, maybe a Jason Kalkenis book or something that's going to tell you, hey, just keep fighting. Just keep doing what you're doing. Investors are wrong. You're the show. And I think outside of Silicon Valley, Boston, and New York, that's a mistake. We know that the places we live here in Canada, I'm actually in the UK today, but even in the central part of the UK where I am today, there's not an investor group. If you're in Ecuador or Peru, I've seen some groups in Peru, Colombia is starting to emerge, but it is hard to find investors. And what I'm saying to you is that don't keep trying the same thing if you know there's ways to improve it. So we spend a lot of time in the circle on improving you. We send you to a startup program or a base camp, and we try to give you the best chance of success. And then I put together an angel platform where we have angels there. But in order to protect our investors, I actually started funds as well, because sometimes that was safer opportunity for them to invest. So we give them the opportunity to directly invest in you or come in through a fund. And then, of course, we've been doing this all over the world. We're very proud of what we've done in Latin America. I have to tell you, on the downside, I'm disappointed how slow we've been. There's a lot of reasons for that, but we've made 3 direct investments and a fund investment commitment so far, and we remain committed to being in South America, even though COVID is going to keep us apart for a while. But we also understand that as an investor, I need to get my money back, and that's why we started our own M&A group. And that means we can actually help you sell your company, because a lot of times you don't know how to do that. So this circle just represents, we do all the services for startups. We almost have it as an ecosystem in a box, if that makes any sense. So we've been very successful about this. 35% of the companies that come and present to our circle, they raise capital. So we think that's a really good statistic. We've put 75 million into startups in the last 15 years, and we've invested almost 300 companies in that time. So that's really good. In fact, these are old numbers. I didn't get to my communications person fast enough, but let me just say, this is your chance of success. We have 190 people just like you that apply to us, and only a third of you, less than a third, make it to deal screening. Deal screening means investors are going to make a decision as to whether you make it into our form or not. And we have 4 spots a year. In each form, we have 5 cities: Vancouver, Kelowna, Calgary, Edmonton. We now have Saskatchewan, if you know where that is. But if you multiply, that 5 times 4, that's 20. And then you multiply that by 12 months, that's 240 spots we have for entrepreneurs to pitch to investors. Have a look at that number. Even in 2016 or even 2017, we purposely did not fill all the spots. We had 240 spots. We only gave away 78. That's on the unique company pitches line. And what I'm saying to you is that entrepreneurs that we were seeing weren't good enough to put in front of investors, or we would have lost credibility. But on the other side, were our investors active? Absolutely. We did 39 deals in 2017. We were second in the country for most deals done as an angel group. And we put 10.8, almost $11 million into deals. So we are very active. We believe in our model. And we honestly, we believe in entrepreneurs. We think the core is the first thing, if we can get you to understand you suck and help you to get better, then we can increase or improve your chances for raising capital.
Remember,
Okay.
Randy, to tell me, sorry, to switch to the other slide.
Oh, yeah.
that
Oh,
I am the
sorry,
one
my
who
friend.
is, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to spend any time on this slide. You can look at it later. Marcelo can hand out the slides in Espanol. I just wanted you to know that I can talk both venture capital. We have 85 million under management, and I've been an Angel of the Year in my country twice. So I think we have a lot of experience, but you are still welcome to say in chat, this guy's full of shit, you know, and challenge me on anything you hear. Okay, so I think investors have different approaches that they take. Oh, sorry, Marcelo, switch. I think investors take different approaches. Some of them have a due diligence checklist they run. And I've seen a lot of them that have any fund experience. They usually have 6 or 7 or 8 questions that they like to ask. Some people will hire due diligence out, and I call that getting an MBA to do due diligence for you. Inside of formal angel groups, this is something you need to know as an entrepreneur. Investors talk to each other. When you don't think that we do, you've gone somewhere across the city in Bogota talking to somebody, and you don't think that that investor is going to talk to a family office on the north side of the city. And then they get together in a cocktail party and they go, hey, have you guys had a look at this deal? I'm telling you that you need to be consistent with your language. You always need to tell the truth. And I hate to say this, this is actually a pro tip. A lot of entrepreneurs think they have to bravado, they have to put, you know, oh, it's going great, it's going so amazing. What I hope we get out of today is one of the best things you can do is actually tell investors, actually, I don't know what I'm doing over here, so we need to get a CFO. We're having trouble entering this marketplace right now. If you tell the truth and tell people some of where your weaknesses are, some investors are going to go, oh, I know exactly how to solve that problem. So I can come in as an investor and solve that problem. That gives me a 2-for-1 on my investment. It's a good investment for us. Lawyers and accountants is a fallback I've seen a lot with some family offices, or a family office will have their own staff. What I'm actually suggesting is 2 of those are a bad idea, is that lawyers and accountants do not make good due diligence people for startups. And to be honest, a lot of times MBAs aren't either. Because what happens is you try to take a lot of the protocol, I'm trying to think of a different word, but I'm going to just use protocol. You would take what you would expect a company to be doing when they're making money, and you do due diligence against how a real company acts. And that checklist isn't fair for a startup. So if you hear about how your investor is going to do due diligence, one of the questions I would encourage you as an entrepreneur is to actually ask, what kind of things do you like to do in due diligence? Who does due diligence for you? How can I help with it? So that was on the entrepreneur side. On the investor side, if you're looking at this and going, oh, well, we don't use one of those, or yes, I use one of those. One of the things I'm going to tell you as an investor is you should have a thesis. You should have a view of the world, a worldview, we call it. You should have an idea after looking at a number of companies. You should see patterns emerge, patterns that you like, patterns that you want to avoid. You should create your own due diligence protocol. I'm going to go into mine, and it's shocking, and not many people follow it. So for you as entrepreneurs, I can guarantee you whatever an investor asks differently, these are things they're going to want to know. I'm not going to talk through all 6, but I want to tell you, number 1 is actually very important. So even if you started your company 3 months ago, or you started your company 2 years ago, I've been hurt now 3 or 4 times by asking a company how much they need to go forward, and I forgot to look at their historical financials. Given to me by an accountant is also important. You cannot trust entrepreneurs. to give you legitimate financials. I wouldn't say they lie about it, but they don't know and actually necessarily what you're looking for. But the reason we ask for historical financials as an investor, I want to see if you spent $2 million already and you failed at it, and this is a pivot. So that's an important question, even though it doesn't look like it. I want to see if you've spent some money or a lot of money before this. Obviously projections, but the interesting thing about projections, just so you know, as an investor, I know you're lying to me with these things. And by the way, you know I'm lying to you when I look at them and go, oh, these are very good. Because we don't have a clue. The company's either going to take off, it's going to go out like this, it's going to fail, it might bump along and be break even. We don't know. So why do we pretend to ask for projections? The reason we ask for them is we want to see in your head how you're planning to roll your business out and where the revenue comes in from. So what I'm suggesting to you is it's not necessarily the numbers on your projections that are important, but we want to see when you roll out a new city, a new product, how many people do you think you're going to need for that? What are your margins? Do you have 50% margin on your product? Or do you have 35%? Those are the things we look for that. And the founder's contract, I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but you can ask about it, okay? Manuela, how are we doing? Anything in the chat box that I need to look after?
You can go on for now. We'll have some questions in some minutes.
Good. Okay, Marcelo, this is your first warning, legitimate warning. Now we turn.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I love this story. If you've seen me speak before, you've probably heard this story. So imagine, and because I can only see 3 of you, and there's a 4th, Viviana Angulo from Bolivia, who works with me at Valhalla. So imagine that the 4 of us, Manuela, Marcelo, myself, and Viviana, we're living on a cruise ship. It's like the movie WALL-E. And every day we go and we have buffet breakfast, buffet lunch, buffet dinner. Celine Dion is the evening entertainment. Julie, the cruise director, has us playing volleyball every afternoon. And you can imagine one lunchtime, Marcelo throws his fork down after having his 18th mashed potatoes in the last 30 days. And he goes, this is bullshit. I've had enough of this. I've heard of these things. They're called islands. And I'm going to take a life raft. I don't have a sail and I don't have a compass, but we're going to find these islands, and then we can have our own society, and we can be independent and make our own choices. And Marcelo looks around the table and he goes, who's with me? And what I love about that story is, first off, Marcelo sounds crazy. But second of it, some of you are listening to me going, Marcelo, how do I get in a life raft? Others are going, I'm staying on the cruise ship. The third thing is, Marcelo doesn't have any equipment that he needs to find an island, but the idea of getting in that rubber dinghy sounds better than staying where he is, and he wants to change the world. And the fourth thing is that life raft is about the journey, and there are going to be some horrible, horrible, horrible things that happened to those guys on that life raft picture. They're probably going to run out of food and water. They're going to put a hole in the dinghy. They're going to be hit an incredible storm, and they may fail. They may never find an island. And I'm telling you that as investors, some of us know that any answer you give us with a due diligence checklist is a lie. You don't know. You have no tools to understand that checklist. So I am very much into the relationship of, I need to find entrepreneurs that are ready for the life raft journey. And think about how cramped those quarters are. A lot of you as entrepreneurs, you've gone through this already. You've probably kicked out team members, or you have a bad partner, or worse, you have a terrible investor. So when you take off on this journey, the 4 people you put in that cramped space, you better have enough resources, and you better have a way of fixing problems together. We call that culture. So to me, culture, relationship, that is the most important thing for me. And I look for entrepreneurs that I can actually just hang out with, and I might actually still like you after I've had a really good fight with you. And I'm hoping you won't screw me, and you're hoping the same from me. And so we get in this journey together, and away we go. Now, I have already said the big thing as an entrepreneur is you need to understand that not all investors are created equal, and all of them have, sorry, Marcelo, I did it again. I changed the page. They all have different things they want. Some of them are engineers, and they want more attention to detail. Some of them are social scientists like myself. I'm a marketing guy. I have an advanced high school degree in political science and English lit. So I'm a useless member of society. I had to become an entrepreneur because no one would hire me. But that social thing is more important to me. If you have an accounting background, those financials are going to be important. But you need to find somebody who aligns with your goals, that culture. There is a million investors out there. I'm going to say something that probably horrifies a ton of you. Money, capital is the easiest part of business. There is so much capital on the sidelines, even in COVID, that doesn't know what to do with the money. And the investors are scared. And again, they're looking for you. They want to meet you, but they don't want to meet all of you. They only want to meet the ones that are in the life raft with a plan and moving forward. There's too many of you that are on the call today. You're average, we call it meh or worse. And so I would challenge you, you know, as I say that probably stung a little bit because none of you on this phone call are average. Every single one of you is like here because you're willing to give up almost everything to start a company, and that should be honored. But we need to get you to a place where giving you capital is just an absolute no-brainer for an investor to make that decision. Because right now in my country, I've seen 3 deals in the last 3 weeks. One deal raised $1 million in 6 weeks, and it was one of my best friends, and he wouldn't let me in that deal. Another deal raised $5 million from a family office because they're solving a really big problem in cancer therapeutics. There's a lot of money out there. My fund, we've raised over $2.5 million in the last 6 weeks. So you need to find cultural alignment with a good investor when you're ready to launch and ready to go. Marcelo, I'm changing the page. Manuela, how are we doing?
Well, we have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The first one is, as you said, there must be a match between entrepreneurs and investors. But how to get to know investors' interests? Where to start? What do you suggest?
Be yourself. Gentlemen on the phone, you guys are really horrible in bar situations. You all have like a plan for how you're going to work the bar, right? And some of you are really successful at that plan. And others of you are really terrible at this because you don't come off as authentic. And again, you're not going to find the right investor, the right partner in a relationship until you get to a place where you're just yourself. I am not an operations specialist. If I come across and I pretend to Marcelo, my investor, that I'm going to have a spreadsheet done and ready for him tomorrow, and I'm going to have a policy and procedures manual done 4 days later, I'm lying to him. But I'm going to tell him, yeah, I can do that because, of course, I just found an investor. Holy cow, they're like unicorns. You can't find them anywhere. So I'm going to lie to Marcelo, and I'm going to try to get all the things he wants me to do. And what I would have done is, in that case, I would have said, you know, I have to tell you, Mr. Investor, Marcelo, that's not my strength. You know, can I show you a marketing plan and what we're thinking about? Would you be willing to sit down and talk about how I should build a spreadsheet? Or, hey, I need more than 2 days. It's not my skill set, but I have a colleague who's going to put this together with me. You know, give them options, be authentic, always tell the truth. I'm always going to go back to that. I've got some traits up here that I look for as an investor, and you should be looking for as an entrepreneur. So I think you already know I'm a bit of a street fighter. I like hustle. I like sneaking into weddings, sitting at the back, eating the food and drinking the wine, knowing I wasn't invited. That's the street fighters, right? We all know what a visionary entrepreneur can look like. And sometimes they are so bad at running companies, but with the way they see things is so incredible that I look at that and I go, I'm not touching that individual until I know who the team is behind that person. Others have amazing attention to detail. I get quarterly reports from some of our best entrepreneurs, and I already know, even though that's not who I am, that person makes their investors feel confident that they're going to get everything they ask for because of the attention to detail. It may not be that entrepreneur. They may have just gone out to find a team member that was the opposite of them and does that. And then there's methodical, numbers-based. But inventors, some of you are mad, crazy founders with great inventions. You should not touch your company. But you should be in a wizard's castle with all your little tools, building more product for the rest of us. And we should treat you really, really well. And you need to build teams around you. Some people like first-time entrepreneurs because they're malleable. I can shape them in the way I'd like them to, and others won't touch first-time entrepreneurs. All I'm saying, and just reiterating the point, there's not going to be a checklist I can give you today that says, here's how you find an angel investor. I will tell you this. I have found that when we go through base camp, entrepreneurs that learn that every single conversation is a pitch never know what they're going to uncover, but they're always digging for gold. What that means is when somebody goes, hey, what are you doing? A lot of you go, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Things are going okay. Have you ever thought about when people try to teach you about your 30-second pitch? What we're actually trying to help you to do is we're trying to help you not take over a conversation in a social setting. We're trying to get you to be able to talk about your company in 10 seconds and ask for help in that 10 seconds. So, oh yeah, I'm running a wound care program. We have this really cool thing. It's a hair clip that stops bleeding in 10 seconds. And we're right in the middle of trying to raise some money and try to get in front of the US military and the Red Cross. So it's been a slog, but we're really enjoying it. I didn't openly ask for help, but what I did do is I said in that 10 seconds the things I'm struggling with. And invariably, if you're an entrepreneur, you know this always happens. The other side of the conversation is thinking, oh, how can I help? How can I pitch in? Oh, I have a rich uncle. Oh, my aunt is the president of the Red Cross in Colombia. These things happen because entrepreneurs are always on their toes, always pitching, finding a 10-second angle, getting their story out there so people can help. And that would be the one thing I would tell you today is always be on the hunt for that magic moment. And I don't know how many of you are on this call, but I'll bet you if there's 150 of you, there's at least 20 of you can tell me an incredible story that now I find it hard as an entrepreneur not to believe in a higher power because the miracles that have happened to us. Yeah, I was in Starbucks and I was just talking on the phone and the person at the next table said, hey, I heard you were trying to find the VP of Virgin Digital. That happens to be me. Like those are the stories that just drive us forward and make us love startup life. But that's because you're always pitching. You're always looking for that piece of gold. And then you'll find that cultural match. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Randy, a lot. And we have a second question here from Guillermo Lucero. He says, how deep is the commitment of ventures such as yours in the development of social business models in Latin America and the Caribbean, where the priority is not only revenue, but also the result of the impact associated with the business model?
Sounds good. Marcelo, I'll warn you, we'll change the slide now. And the slide should say, as an investor, you need to understand from my side. So I love that question. I'm going to give you an example of what we did in South Sudan. 2 engineers were in my home city of Calgary, which is an oil and gas country or city. And these 2 engineers were working for an oil and gas company, and they wanted to go home. And they realized in South Sudan, which was having a civil war, that all the professional white collar people would be leaving the country. And they had a vision of going back in and hiring a bunch of engineers and actually running a local engineering firm. And so we invested in that company. We invested in that company, though, not as a social enterprise. They actually gave us the opportunity to lend them money and give that money back at the interest rate that was standard for their country. And at that point, it was 3% a month. We told them that they didn't have to pay us for the first 2 years so that they could get off the ground. And they said, no, we want to start paying quarterly right from the get-go. We want to be treated like a real company. I had to tell you, none of us thought we were going to get our money back. That was social to me. But I don't like treating those two engineers as a social project because it comes with a lot of that guilt that comes from, I call it north to south. There's a lot of, hey, here's my check, but you have to do this. As I said about culture, I'm a big fan of you saying, hey, I want your check, but here's my terms. And investors want to do social things. I have investors that will give you money they never expect to see again if you're going to build 1,000 wells in Africa. I've been involved in some deals in Colombia where the terms were actually quite commercial. They weren't all the way commercial. So let's say the return was 8%, but the work they were doing was phenomenal. So I don't like leading with social, but again, what you should know is I just gave you the wrong answer from what I told you. Because I told you that if you want to lead and say, hey, we're doing social projects in South America, and here's our terms, I already told you there's a pool of investors, and you're trying to get rid of the ones that are wasting your time and don't believe in the world you do, and you're looking for those 4 or 5 or 6 or 200 that want to, oh yeah, I love doing impact investing. I love calling it impact investing. Where can I give you a check? So don't change your principles. Don't have me change mine, but you should show me what you're up to. How are we doing? And well, any more, or should I go on to the next slide?
You can go on. Thank you, Randy.
I'm just checking. Oh, it's not. Okay. So I want you to spend a day in the life of Randy Thompson. So I used to be young and cool. Now I'm old. I've been doing this now since 2003. And I like to tell people I'm tired and pissed off. And I hope pissed off translates well. I have done over 70 personal investments myself. And my returns are pretty average. They're not great. I've had a couple of good deals or I wouldn't be doing this anymore. But I look at the overarching portfolio. One of my funds has done extraordinarily well, and that's actually carried me. My individual investments have been okay, but they haven't been great. And the dirty secret, entrepreneurs and investors out there, what you need to know is the venture model is a lie in the angel space. And I actually think it's probably a lie in the venture space too. You've been told that 7 out of 10 companies will fail, but it's the 3 that are winners that make up for everything. I have to tell you that I only have in my 70 plus investments, let's call it 80, I only have about 8 or 9 that have actually gone under. And I only have about 8 or 9 that have done well. And the rest in the middle, you can flip this slide forward, Marcelo, for a second. I think it's my zombie slide. No, it's not there, sorry. So go back to, as an investor, you need to understand. But we call them zombies. The ones that are in the middle, they won't die, they won't live, they probably break even. So you as an entrepreneur get enough money to feed your family and get a salary, but you haven't given me a return. And you've got my money and it's 8 years, 9 years, 12 years. I have a couple that are 15 years old. So when you approach me, it's very hard for you to show me something, A, I haven't seen already, B, that I'm going to get excited about, and C, that I think you're lying. like, I'm not going to believe anything you say. So I'm going to just listen, but I am completely skeptical and bitter and twisted before you approach me. Now, if you can get lucky and find an investor that has just had a big win. I have 3 of my companies that are 12 years old, and I'm expecting all 3 of them to do extraordinarily well. Well, it was last year I was expecting that, and then COVID comes along. So now I add another year before I get these massive exits. And now my massive exit might be cut in half because of COVID. I don't know. So, but when those big wins come, I actually don't need the money. So I'm going to keep investing because I love it. I'm a deal junkie. It's almost like gambling problem for me. And I have a bullet there that says, here's where I describe fresh meat. That is not a bullet that you're supposed to look it up anywhere. It's a kind of a pro tip for entrepreneurs. It's also a pro tip if you're a new angel on this call. Don't be fresh meat. This is what I'm going to tell you as an investor. And I'm going to tell you as an entrepreneur, try to find fresh meat. And fresh meat is a brand new investor who's just had a huge exit and it's burning a hole in their pocket. They just want to go do 6 deals. That is a sweet spot for you as an entrepreneur because they don't do as much due diligence sometimes. They just want to show their other colleagues that they're angel investing. It's hard to go and look for that. I feel bad for anybody in South America that's just exited their company in the last 14 months because I just have 4,000 people headed towards calling them and emailing them and checking their LinkedIn. But this is the problem is you get more wise veterans in the angel space. We have seen every deal. And I like to joke about you as an entrepreneur. You're going to come to me in 2017. I probably met you at an XCALA conference. And you told me about your blockchain drones with that, but now you've flipped into, it's got a fintech play using AI or machine learning. Like there's so many entrepreneurs we see using the buzzwords and the language, and that's not building a company. That's like trying to be cool startup person. We're looking for entrepreneurs that want to build companies who love what they do, who understand the value of returns. So, just some things, I'm coming to the end here and the rest we can spend on questions. But, one of the things that I tell you as an entrepreneur, you really actually only have one job, and it's actually to stay alive one more day. And, Amazon, as big as they are, everything they do is aimed at staying alive one more day. Make sure revenues are higher than expenses. Don't hire bad people. Always, figure out how you cut your expenses lower, how to get your margins higher. Sometimes you have to work on the side. You have a stocking shelves job, or, I've heard some really horrible jobs that pay the bills to feed your company. But that's the goal of an entrepreneur, is that nobody's going to come along and save you. It's on you, and you have to stay alive. And some of your creativity and some of the things you'll learn about how to save your company later on when it's making huge profits, you're going to learn in the early days from how you manage to stay alive now in the startup phase. I say there isn't a plan B. I actually disagree with this. I mean, there's always, you can bang your head against a wall, bang your head against the wall, bang your head against the wall. That's, the universe is starting to tell you at that point, it shouldn't be this hard. Because I've been in enough deals that when the product and the customers come together with the right team and the whole thing takes off, you go, like, people, I had people drive 3 hours across Canada to hand deliver me a check to get in a deal because they were concerned they wouldn't get in a deal. That's what product market fit looks like, where you're going to bed because you can't take it anymore and there's still 1,000 orders that need to be filled. That's product market fit. So if the universe is telling you that this is really hard, you maybe should look at a plan B. But when I say there isn't a plan B, I'm saying if you're an entrepreneur and you know you're an entrepreneur and you should not be working for the man, then you better learn to stay alive and get product market fit as fast as you can. I would put an F-bomb in there, as fast as you effing can, because you're starving to death until you do it. But you shouldn't be working for the man or the woman. So It's time to get this thing off the ground and know there's no turning back once you're in the life raft. Whoever pays you has rights. That's investors, but they aren't always right. So I want you to feel like you can have an equal relationship with your investor. One of the things I've seen in South America is the inequality of the relationship between the investor and the entrepreneur. That's a recipe for disaster. You all need to feel that you're in the same spot working together. And if you're getting some of the larger sources of capital are saying, hey, we don't do investing where we take 25%, we're going to buy you and you're going to come work for us, that's not a culture fit for some of you. Okay, and you will go hungry for a week or more. I'm going forward, Marcelo. So yeah, just some oversights on this. I'm bored, and I think your deal is just like every other deal. So I have a saying when you pitch, that you have to pitch authentic and true, but I will tell you this, be interesting, don't suck. I'm gonna say it again, be interesting, don't suck. Do not come up to me at a cocktail social and lead with your pitch. Tell me about yourself. Talk about your story. Like, create a relationship. You don't try to get married. Like, you don't walk up to the best looking guy or girl in the bar and say, hey, you're so hot, can we just get married? It's such a bad approach, but all of you as entrepreneurs do it. Or, oh, I love, I'm sorry, some of you are gonna hang up right now. I love when you come and do a product demo. So how many of you on this call have actually done a product demo, a mobile app demo, a SaaS demo, a hardware demo to an investor? Don't ever do that in public. So be interesting, don't suck. Think about a way, a methodology that you want to approach us. You think you're a big deal, and you think you have a right to investors' dollars. I'm telling you, nobody has those rights. You're going to get investors' dollars when your company is a reflection of an opportunity. So that's our starting place for speed dating. And I can usually make these decisions pretty quickly, actually. Marcella, I'm going forward. I will give you this. This is, again, for me. I love confident entrepreneurs that say, I am the 1 in the 100. I know that you have looked at 99 really boring deals, but I'm passionate about it, mean this, I'm the one. I really believe it. And can I have 2 minutes to tell you why I think I'm the one? Show me your hustle. Show me that you've done some really creative things to stay alive. Of course, the one that investors love is if your revenue numbers are irrefutable. You did 6 million in sales last year, then that is something none of us get to fight with. Everybody will say, oh, that's a terrible business model. That's a terrible product. Yeah, well, you know what? I got $6 million worth of orders that say you're wrong. That's really cool to be able to say to investors, by the way. And I will tell you, if you are a mad founder where you think you're going to get me to invest on technology, I know who you are. And every time I've been involved with a mad founder, they believe their technology is brilliant, which means they're brilliant, which means the rest of us are stupid. So if you are somebody who's leaning towards mad founder, you need to figure a way to check it in a bag and become more of a team player. That'll be your key learning as we go forward. So I'm going to leave this on, and Manuela will go to, I've got 2 more slides, but they're not that important. I love customer validation. I call it customer logos. So if you're working with Mercedes-Benz or Amazon or whoever, I love seeing that logo and having you tell me you have relationships with these people, because that validates you're not crazy. And then every investor I know is looking for you to have an answer on those 6 points. So if that's a takeaway today, that's what you should be writing down, is you should have, like, be able to do a 3-minute pitch or a 30-second pitch where you cover those 6 points. That'll take you the long way to the promised land. So I'm going to stop there, Manuela, and see if there's any questions. Maybe, Marcelo, what we'll do is advance to slide 1.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah, we have a couple of questions, and I know that Marcelo has some as well. I have one, and it's how to protect intellectual property while sharing or when sharing an idea with an investor. And how common is it from an investor to steal an idea from an entrepreneur?
So sorry that I'd like to be honest. And so that is a question a lot of times that I won't get from an American. Americans are my cousins. So I get that conversation a lot around the world. So it's a very common question. And what I'm going to tell you is what an American would do is they would come up to me and they would tell me what their intellectual property is, how it works, who they're selling to, and what they're doing next. And the reason is that an American actually understands that execution is more important than your intellectual property. He would actually probably end that sentence by saying, and if you steal the idea and the plan, I don't care because I'm still going to kick your ass. Which goes to that I'm the person, I'm the one. If you are not the one, you still have a role in the ecosystem. Again, my American cousins, they don't understand football. Marcelo will tell you I'm a passionate footballer. I own a club in England. I love football because 11 people make a difference. Barcelona's in so much trouble right now because they only have one player. And Americans have like football, with American football, where the quarterback's so important, and baseball, where the pitcher and the batter. I love football because 11 people matter. And what I'm saying to you is, you asked that question about IP. You may not be the person who's really good at execution. So your intellectual property belongs in a team environment. Now, I'm not making a prejudgment. You might be the one, and you might be going forward and saying, I'm just going to kick your ass. But again, what have I just told you I'm doing? I have over 75 investments. I run Valhalla Private Capital. I own a piece of a football team. I run a fund. Do I have time to take your startup idea and spend 22 hours a night getting that startup off the ground, going through the pain of fundraising, building teams, finding customers? I'm telling you, I'm old. I used to be cool. I write checks so that you can do the work. So I find it rare, but if it's something you're scared about, there's ways around it. You have what's called, you can look this up. It's called an inventor's book. It's hardbound. You go to a lawyer, you timestamp the book, you write your ideas down. You have to find a way to talk about your idea without giving away what it is. But I told you, I'm in a deal where I have a hair clip that stops bleeding in 6 seconds. It's 3. We have 16 patents on that. Did I give you anything about how my medical device works? But I was able to tell you what I did.
Excellent, Randy. Well, we are running out of time, so I am going to make the last 2 questions, Randy.
All right.
First, I understand that you base your investment decisions on relations. Okay, so once you're in a good move with the founders, which are the things that you basically look on the team in order to take a decision over the investment?
Well, again, this is very personal. So I'm going to say that, again, if you have 150 different types of investors, in fact, I'm going to give you all a quick exercise. Marcelo, I'm aware of time, so bear with me. Okay. Pretend you have 10 million US dollars. Pretend that the startup you're in, you're right, and you got a big check, and now you have $10 million. Now I want you to spend the $10 million. I want you to spend $3 to $5 million on your family, buying the house of your dreams, getting your families out of debt, going on a trip to Paris, whatever you're going to do with your money. But pretend you spend almost half of it, plus pay your taxes. Okay, you have 5 left. Pretend you put $2 million with a wealth manager. You have $3 million left. What would you do with $3 million? What kind of angel would you be? We have 4 types of angels. We have control freaks, semi-control freaks, big dog, we like to call it. Somebody who puts 100,000 in, wants to be an advisor, help out, maybe go to trade shows, but won't be up at Christmas Eve when the tech breaks. And some people do sprinkle and sprout. They do 25 or 50 investments. To be honest, I've done all of the 4. Now, okay. So when you break that down, figure out, okay, if I was to write a check, how would somebody get money out of me? So I flipped your question around. I want you to write down, okay, if it was me and somebody was approaching me for money, what do I need from them? What do they need to tell me? That's the answer to your question. I hope that was helpful.
So at the end, it's very individual. Each one of us has our own, investment thesis. So basically, that's the answer to my question.
It is. Each person, I'll leave this up as my last chart. This is, we found out that companies, they get invested in 6 times over their life. And I don't have time to go and tell you why, but you'll see all those. I'll tell you what I like to do is I like to write you a small check in the seed round, very small, 15 to 25,000. Then I get, the question from the last person, I think it was Kurt. I get to test how our relationship's going. And if it doesn't go well, it only costs me 25 grand. But if it's going well and the company takes off, then I'll write a 50 to 75K in the Series A angel space there. And then when we get the next check, that's where I save my big one, because I'm actually more scared of the VCs and the family offices than I am of anybody else. So I want co-investing rights with them. That's my thesis. I invest over 3 rounds and I'm always scared of the shark.
So I have a question down there about the VC. So you are telling us that maybe a good strategy for an angel investor is to co-invest with the VCs in a VC round. So
yes.
So you can be on the same level once you have an exit.
Yes.
So that's basically okay.
And Marcelo, it's easier said than done because a lot of VCs don't want to bring people along with them. So that's why we created an angel fund. So what we did is we pooled all of our angels' money together. When we find a good deal, we go in as a fund and we co-invest as our fund with their fund. And that's worked out very well for us.
Excellent. Well, and the last question is about valuation. I know this is a very difficult issue to approach. So how do you have a number of how much a company may be valuated at early stages? So how does your mind work in that sense?
Yes. So Marcelo, on this chart, you'll see there's 2 numbers at the top. The first one says 250K, then it goes 1 million, 1.5 to 6 million. That is standard valuations in North America at those different rounds. So if you're starting out and you're just self-financed, you're probably going to be worth about 250. If you're bringing in friends and family, your valuation should be about $1 million. And when you come to the angels,
let me share that. Give me a minute because that's very important for our audience. Here it is.
Okay, sorry. So you'll see the top numbers are 250, 1 million, 1.5 to 6. That actually is what standard valuations are right now in North America. Now, what I want to do is keep this chart and have a look and see where you should be in between. The problem for you entrepreneurs is you look at this, you're always going to go up to the top end of that. The other piece I want to add into valuation is I want you to, wherever you live, Argentina, Ecuador, Paraguay, whatever, I want you to think, what was the value of the last tech company sold in my country? So just so you know that is not a shot on South America. In Canada, the average exit price for a tech company is $22 million. And because I'm an investor, I know that. So when you come and you lie to me and say, oh, we're going to sell for 100 million, I know that's not true. So what I do, Marcelo, you see between Series A and Series B, that would be about where 22 million would be worth. So I plan my investing to get out of your company right there. So that's the second part of my strategy, and it should be second part of your valuation exercise, is if you value yourself at 26 million and the average exit price is 22, I already know as an investor, I'm going to lose money with you potentially. And when we say average, that means 75% of the time average. So we have to count on certain statistics.
Excellent. So basically you base your valuation in your experience as an investor for many years. And you know how much are the deals done on the region and in Canada and on the US. So basically you compare. So
we call it comparables in English, yes. Marcelo, maybe the last slide you can maybe put up where people can get hold of me or follow me on Twitter or send LinkedIn.
Yes, I'm gonna share, let me share your personal information. So,
and I obviously you saw my I'm glad you had the exit waterfall slide up there too, because then that actually shows there's another layer about money doesn't flow equally at an exit. We'd do another whole category on how funding works, why pref shares are important, who gets paid first at an exit. There's lots of things that investors are very, very scared of. In fact, investors are more scared of exit waterfalls and pref shares than they are of you, the startup.
Okay, well, excellent. Thank you very much, Randy. It was great to have you with us. And thanks again for your participation and commitment with the region, with the LATAM region. I know you are very active. So there is your information. If there is any entrepreneur or any investor who wants to reach Randy, we are leaving this slide for a few seconds so you can get all the information and get in touch with him. So thank you again, Randy. Well, looking forward to see you very soon when this issue of the pandemic really ends. So I'm switching into Spanish. Bueno, para cerrar, muchas gracias a todos por compartir esta sesión con Randy. Les vamos a estar enviando el video como para que puedan verlo nuevamente. Comentarles que continuamos con Venture Academy. En lugar de hacerlo todos los miércoles, vamos a estar dando sesiones 2 veces al mes, o sea, cada 15 días, y en breve vamos a estar compartiendo con todos ustedes cuál va a ser la agenda de los próximos oradores que vamos a tener con nosotros en Venture Academy. Así que bueno, muchas gracias de nuevo al BitLab, a ConnectaAmericas por hacer posible este espacio y muchas gracias de nuevo a Randy por estar con todos nosotros. Así que muchas gracias, hasta la próxima, y la dejo a Manuela como para que pueda hacer el cierre. Thank you, Randy.
Gracias, Marcelo. Gracias a todos por estar aquí el día de hoy. And Randy, thank you very much for being here. It is an honor for us to have you in this session of Venture Academy. We hope that we have you back someday. Gracias a todos y nos vemos entonces dentro de 15 días. Bueno, chao, chao.
Muchas gracias, hasta la próxima.